heard about the Aladdin project first from Adam on a random night hanging out. He's just a very free thinker, and he incorporates lots of interesting ideas into anything that he does. So I don't view this that differently than I view his songwriting, which I think is the same, or his paintings, which are the same.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to describe a film like this.
This is the movie that he wants to make. This isn't some girl meets boy in Connecticut, oh, I hope they get together, they broke up, they got together movie. This will be another kind of a movie.
Adam doesn't make choices based off of how successful it might do or money or anything. He just does it because he has a very clear vision. And that's so rare, more and more every day. People who, on all levels of this industry, work on different levels. So I've never seen anything like that. And it's really rare to create something that's not ever being done before.
I've noticed a lot that people assume that Adam's crazy on some level, but I don't find him crazy in the slightest. I just find him deeply funny. I find him to be very, very sane. You can't do this if you're insane. An insane person couldn't even conceive of this. Never mind execute it. That's really hard.
I just really love movies like Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast and Pasolini's version of Arabian Nights and different stuff where people adapt a folk tale and they make their own crazy version of it. And I had made a movie before called The Wrong Ferrari. It's made all on the iPhone.
Come in, my marvelous boy!
But certainly making The Wrong Ferrari was pivotal in me starting to focus more on visual art. And then with Aladdin, was the first time I thought I could do a sort of an alchemical thing of combining music, art, and writing into the same thing. And I could make a film that reflected all the different aspects of how I want to be creative. The first thing I wanted to do was to get a lamp for myself. Yeah. And so I was with Alia Shawkat, who plays Emily in the movie, and we went to an antique store in the West Village.
It might have been 4 or 5 years ago when me and Adam were first starting hanging out, and we walked into this weird shop, and it was one of those shops that you felt wouldn't be there if you went back the next day kind of thing, with all these weird knickknacks. And when we walked in, and he found this lamp that all the Bichet lamps are based off of. It was a really weird shape, pointed at the top, and it's beautiful. It looked expensive, but it was also just are you gonna buy this thing? And he was like, I always wanted to make an Aladdin.
So I found this lamp, and I was carrying this lamp around with me everywhere. I even carried it to LA when I went to make the music for the album. And I just saw it as a pact with myself that I was gonna make the movie.
It's very fun to watch that kind of stuff materialize and become real. Especially when so many people don't really follow through on ideas. And Adam always follows through on his ideas all the way to the very, very, very end.
I was reading a lot about esoteric, kind of mystical, medieval Judaism, Kabbalah and stuff. So I drew all these sort of astrological looking charts of the different characters. For example, a chart of Abraham and Isaac. And then I realized that in a way, the story of Aladdin, where the wizard takes Aladdin to the top of the mountain to sacrifice him to the cave, was really similar to the way that Isaac was taken by Abraham to the top of a mountain to be sacrificed. So I started to see little parallels in sort of older mythology with it. And I was trying to make those connections. I drew a sort of Kabbalistic tree of life chart with the different characters and with what I thought they were at the time. I think ultimately when I actually just gave that up is when the story really came together. I had hundreds of pages of writing, and I took lines that I liked and I put them on index cards and I laid them on the floor and just saw the connections between the different cards, what they were saying.
This is the Aladdin screenplay. It's 95 pages, feature-length screenplay that I've spent the last 2 years writing.
Well, I said yes to the script before he'd even written it, so I was.
You like Adam Green?
Yes, I like Adam Green.
Adam's inspired me in what I do from a really young age, actually.
I'd never done a storyboard before, so it's not a formal version, but I drew over 100 pictures of every scene in the movie, just so I could start to understand what the movie looked like. So I think there's a lyrical element in the script because as a musician, I think phonetically. I wrote the lines for characters to say in the same way that I would approach writing lyrics to a song.
Whatever happened to correcting the world's posture?
How manageable is my neighbor's delusion?
Aladdin movie is a true narrative. It's a journey of Aladdin from kind of a down and out personality to somebody who's connected and involved with the world.
Well, he really descends into some real darkness, right? Yeah. There's a lot of darkness. He really isn't the sweetest Aladdin. He goes through a real transformation.
Once I knew that I was going to make Aladdin, the first step that I did was I did a Kickstarter.
Hello, I'm Adam Green. I want to direct a movie called Aladdin.
So the movie was started by Kickstarter backers who raised enough money for me to rent a warehouse. I think when I drew the storyboards, I first realized that the movie was actually going to be completely handmade, and it was going to be in paper mache. And I was going to build every single set to look like it was part of my artwork. I had helpers that were like a lot of people that we found on the internet, college kids who were off for the summer, people who had gone to either art school or had worked in the art department on indie films. Like a lot of really amazing people that I met.
As you know, Adam did every line. As much help as he made sure to do every line, and it really made a difference. So like when it's a clean set and you just see the lines, they really stand out and kind of like warp, and then it actually looks more realistic when there's like less to focus on.
It really feels like being inside his brain.
So I had taken a bunch of the different cartoon characters' facial features like Garfield and Elmo and Big Bird, and I had reduced them down to these really reduced cubic forms that were like squares. They were almost cartoon character crack, these tiny little reductions. And then they became building blocks as symbols for the whole world. And the whole Aladdin movie is really just made of like almost 8 different shapes. I like paper mache because it's a crude and inaccurate medium. You know, it's like when you draw with a crayon. It's a blunt instrument and it's not very accurate, but nothing that you draw looks bad. And with paper mache, it's like everything that you make looks good. It's not like, it's a very forgiving medium.
I'm a manual laborer and I have an affinity with craft rather than industrial products. So I sympathize with something that is handmade, and there is no film more handmade than this one.
Bip Ling plays the princess. This is actually her first movie that she's ever done. I based her on Kardashian.
Well, Adam asked me to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which I thought was quite funny, so I did.
She has a reality show. It's almost like a game show. She has princes that are like suitors that are coming all the time and she's rejecting them.
Delete your face. I think that the princess is a heartbreaker in this Aladdin.
In the movie, I made her also have like a mechanism for her own like punk personality.
Hey Dad, do you think that I'm a criminal too?
Princess Barbara, it is the law that if you're not married in a month, I have to execute you.
The Sultan is played by Jack Dishel, who was in The Moldy Peaches with me.
I just view him as a immensely perverse symbol of people who have everything and want more.
Welcome to Primavera Palace.
He approached the character in a really hilarious way where he made him have this sort of pan-European accent from nowhere.
I'm the luckiest god in the whole world.
Uncle Gary is also played by Jack Dishel.
Uncle Gary is a voice. It started out as a voice that I've done for a long time. My best guess as to where it comes from is just commercials.
Hey, I'm your Uncle Gary. You know, sometimes things get pretty hot and hungry on set here, and when I feel my stomach rumbling, there's only one thing I reach for. Nature Valley Organic Granola Bar, 16 grams of whole grain goodness. My favorite flavor is oats and honey. Nature Valley. Everything else is horseshit.
I at least read the beginning of Joseph Campbell's book, Hero with 1,000 Faces, and I seem to remember him saying that, you know, through the ages, there was just this figure of the mysterious stranger that shows up and reveals a new world to you.
All technology's natural. Look, God equals humans divided by nature plus aliens.
So it's fun to play that person. You just like walk in and just completely wreck everything, for better or worse.
Mom is played by Natasha Lyonne.
I played Mom, and she is the mother of Aladdin and Emily. Long story short, your father's dead, and I told you so.
Emily is Aladdin's twin sister, and she's played by Alia Shawkat.
Emily is incredibly hopeful for the future.
I want this movie to be a cry for peace.
I play Ralph. He's a rebel leader of the Magical Americans who trying to bring down the Sultan and everything he stands for.
He's clearly like the intellectual voice at the top of the Magical Americans pyramid.
But you are not dead yet. You gray, huddled masses, stuck in this bureaucratic hell of secret government and bad money.
Miss President is played by Nicole LaLiberte. She is my boss at the record label.
I think he sort of spoke about her as an oracle, someone that was sort of outside the film and able to sort of explain everything that was happening, was always 2 steps ahead of all the other characters.
The lamp connects to a frequency of Wi-Fi that mushrooms tap into. Fungus is a space-age material.
So the genie is played by Francesco Clemente, the great painter.
Well, the genie is rooted in the dark, and light pops out of the dark. That's what I do for a living. That is how I would describe what I do as a painter. The lamp is a printer. I can print you anything that you wish for.
I made the lamp a 3D printer because I thought a 3D printer symbolizes the idea of having the ability to materialize anything with like the click of a button. I guess the concept became what would happen if you took the internet and you hooked it up to a 3D printer and you just pressed go.
This place is starting to look like Hollywood. You're just gonna print out an analog version of the internet and there's no room for it.
Yeah, so we came up with this way that we could take 4x4 cardboard panels and we could organize them in a grid system against like the shell of a wall. And we could like put up the panels, paint them, wait for them to dry. Then we could take them down with Velcro, put them in a stack like a card catalog. And if you wanted to take a new room, you'd find it in the catalog, take out the panels, and then you could plug it into the wall. And then, so it was an enormous space-saving tool. And so I started to see the cardboard panels as like pixels in the video game world. And I actually wrote that into the script.
Where am I supposed to buy cigarettes on an 8-bit pixelated street, yeah?
In the same sense that the movie takes place in a video game, they have a digital Bitcoin currency called Spacebucks. And the miners who populate the town, because it's a mining town, and there's these sort of baseball miners that pick at the ground with these baseball axes. And sometimes when they hit the ground enough, it produces a baseball, which is worth a certain amount of Spacebucks. I had been outfitted as Aladdin, and it was the first day of shoot. And like I remember I just was like walking towards the set and it was all dark. And I went through the curtain, and then inside was the set, and it was like all lit up like theatrically. It almost looked like it was like a 70s game show. I had to walk through a cave past 3 aliens. And I was so nervous. I was like, am I walking through the cave right?
Maybe this would be like a surprising thing to walk onto if I'd never met any of the players before. But I do think that since I understand so clearly how Adam specifically sort of thinks and sees the world, because I know him personally, it makes it a lot less challenging.
Even without the costumes in here, it's, you know, it's a good 400 or 500 degrees. So.
It is 145 degrees in here. That's actually the temperature.
It was probably like 110 degrees in the warehouse. Like you just sweat just a second that you came in there.
And the sweaty Adonis right here, you know, yeah, sweating up a storm.
It's definitely abnormal, but so is everything on the set. Yeah. And in a weird way, like if you had to tit for tat, the vibe on the set and the freedom of creativity is worth the heat, I think. I feel like on the first day when we were doing the stuff with Natasha on the house set, I was like, oh, we're in like a family cartoon sitcom of like a fucked up world, and that helped me connect to it. But it was like a challenge for that reason and fun because you could also do anything you wanted, like try so many different ways and see what's funny, what's weird, how it works. There's just a lot of interpretations. Any of the lines that maybe at first, I mean all of them are very strange, but at first had a hard time understanding, I just imagine it coming out of Adam's mouth and then it makes sense again.
Considering the state of the planet, maybe people who think of themselves as average are enlightened.
I'm like, so what does it mean when I'm saying? And he's like, well, you know, because you're lost and this is the time that the flies go into your head. And I'm like, yes, exactly. And I understand him. He has a beautiful mind.